Have you ever walked into a room full of people and somehow felt like you weren't really there? Everyone is laughing. Everyone seems to understand each other without trying. Conversations flow naturally. But you stand there with a strange feeling you can't explain. It's not that anyone is being rude. It's not that you're completely alone. It's something deeper. You feel like you're watching life through invisible glass. You smile when everyone else smiles. You join the conversation. You even make people laugh. Yet, somewhere inside, a quiet voice whispers, "Why do I always feel different?" Maybe you've asked yourself that question since childhood. Maybe you've always felt like you came from another world, as if everyone else received a secret manual about life that somehow skipped you. If that's you, then this video might explain something you've carried for years. Most people think feeling different means something is wrong with you. But the truth is, feeling different is often the result of how your brain learned to experience the world, not proof that you don't belong. And once you understand the hidden psychology behind that feeling, you may stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing yourself more clearly than ever before. Because beneath this feeling lies a fascinating psychological story involving your brain, your past experiences, your nervous system, and the invisible patterns that quietly shape the way you see yourself. So let's uncover what's really happening. The feeling of being different is like standing on an iceberg. What people see above the water is your personality. What they don't see is the enormous hidden structure beneath the surface. Psychologists have long understood that our sense of identity develops through thousands of small experiences, many of which happen long before we're old enough to understand them. Carl Jung believed that every person carries both a visible self and a hidden self. He called this hidden world the unconscious, a place where forgotten emotions, childhood experiences, and unspoken fears quietly influence our lives. Imagine someone who was often told they were too sensitive as a child. Years later, they may still feel different in every social situation, even when nobody is criticizing them. The past becomes a silent narrator. And that's where our first hidden mechanism begins. The first reason many people always feel different is because they became observers instead of participants. Think about a lighthouse. It watches everything. It notices every wave, every storm, every ship. But it never joins the ocean. People who grew up in unpredictable environments often develop this psychological habit. According to attachment theory, children constantly study the emotional reactions of caregivers because their safety depends on it. Their brain becomes highly skilled at reading expressions, tone of voice, and tiny changes in behavior. This creates an incredibly powerful emotional radar. As adults, that radar often stays switched on. Imagine entering a meeting at work. Most people focus on the conversation. But someone with this heightened awareness immediately notices who looks uncomfortable, who sounds annoyed, who seems distant, and who might secretly disagree. Their brain is scanning instead of simply living. This isn't weakness. It's adaptation. The hidden emotional cost, however, is exhausting. When you're always observing everyone else, you rarely feel free enough to simply be yourself. And eventually, the world starts feeling like a theater where everyone else knows the script except you. That leads us to the second hidden reason. Many people who feel different carry what psychologists sometimes describe as an invisible mask. Not because they're dishonest. Because they learned that authenticity once felt unsafe. Freud believed that people unconsciously develop defense mechanisms to protect themselves from emotional pain. One of those defenses is adapting your personality to fit your environment. Picture a chameleon changing colors. It survives. But after changing colors long enough, does it even remember its original color? Imagine someone who acts differently around family, differently around friends, differently at work, and differently online. Everyone likes them. Yet when they're alone, they wonder, who am I really? The mask protects them from rejection. But it also prevents genuine connection. Because people can only truly know the version you allow them to see. And deep inside, that creates a painful loneliness. Not because no one loves you, but because no one has fully met the real you. The mask becomes both your shield and your prison. Which brings us to another surprising psychological pattern. People who always feel different often think differently. Their brain isn't necessarily better or worse. It simply processes information in another way. Neuroscience shows that our brains constantly search for patterns. Some people naturally notice details that others overlook. Others ask deeper questions instead of accepting easy answers. Evolutionary psychologists suggest that human groups benefited from having different kinds of thinkers. Some became explorers. Some became protectors. Some became storytellers. Some became problem solvers. Imagine everyone walking through a forest. Most people enjoy the scenery. One person notices unusual footprints. Another wonders how the forest grew over centuries. Another questions why certain trees survive while others don't. They're all seeing the same place, but their minds create entirely different realities. The problem begins when society rewards fitting in more than thinking differently. Instead of appreciating their perspective, many people begin questioning themselves. They mistake uniqueness for isolation. Over time, their own mind starts feeling like a foreign country. And that's where another invisible trap appears. The final hidden mechanism is something psychologists often connect with cognitive bias and self-beliefs. Your brain becomes a detective. But instead of searching for truth, it searches for evidence that confirms your deepest beliefs. If you believed for years that you're different, your brain starts collecting proof. Someone forgets to invite you. See? I don't belong. A conversation becomes awkward. I'm different again. A friend takes longer to reply. They've probably realized I'm strange. This pattern is closely related to what cognitive behavioral therapy calls automatic thoughts. The brain fills missing information with familiar stories. Imagine wearing glasses with a tiny scratch. At first, you barely notice it. Eventually, every view seems distorted. The scratch isn't in the world. It's on the lens. The emotional consequence is heartbreaking. You begin feeling isolated even in places where acceptance already exists. The prison isn't built by reality. It's built by interpretation. Fortunately, interpretation can change. And that's where healing begins. So how do you stop feeling different all the time? Not by forcing yourself to become someone else, but by changing your relationship with your own mind. The first principle is to stop asking, how do I fit in? Instead ask, where do I naturally belong? Psychologically, this shifts your attention from approval to compatibility. Not every environment is designed for every personality. Imagine trying to grow a cactus in a rainforest. It isn't failing. It's simply in the wrong environment. The same applies to people. A quiet person may struggle in loud social circles but thrive among thoughtful friends who enjoy meaningful conversations. Belonging doesn't require becoming someone new. It requires finding places where you don't have to wear a mask. The second principle is to become curious instead of judgmental toward yourself. Research in psychology consistently shows that self-compassion reduces anxiety and strengthens emotional resilience. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" try asking, "What experience taught me to feel this way?" Notice the difference. One question attacks. The other investigates. Imagine feeling uncomfortable at a party. Instead of criticizing yourself afterward, pause and ask what made you uncomfortable. Was it the noise? The unfamiliar people? The pressure to impress? Understanding creates freedom. Curiosity turns you from your own enemy into your own detective. The third principle is to slowly remove the mask. Not everywhere. Not with everyone. But with safe people. Trust grows through small moments of honesty. Mirror neurons in the brain help humans emotionally connect when we express genuine emotions. Authenticity invites authenticity. Imagine telling a close friend, "I've always felt like I don't completely fit in." You might expect judgment. Instead, they quietly admit, "I felt that too." Suddenly, two lonely people become less lonely. Real connection rarely begins with perfection. It begins with honesty. The fourth principle is to train your brain to notice belonging, not just difference. Remember the detective inside your mind? Give it a new assignment. Every evening, think about one moment where you genuinely connected with someone. Maybe a stranger smiled. Maybe a coworker appreciated your idea. Maybe a friend laughed at your joke. These moments often disappear because our brain naturally pays more attention to threats than safety, a survival system influenced by the amygdala. But when you consciously notice connection, you begin teaching your nervous system that acceptance exists too. Over time, your mental lens becomes clearer. Not because the world changed. Because your attention changed. Finally, allow yourself to become who you are instead of chasing who you think everyone expects you to be. A cocoon doesn't apologize for looking different from a butterfly. It simply trusts the process. Your differences may one day become the exact reason someone feels understood. The questions you ask, the empathy you carry, the way you notice what others miss. These qualities are not flaws to erase. They are gifts to understand. Feeling different doesn't automatically mean you're alone. Sometimes it simply means you've spent years standing outside the mirror, believing the reflection was the truth. But mirrors only show one angle. Human beings are far more complex than reflections. So if you spent your life feeling like an outsider, maybe it's time to ask a different question. Not, "Why am I different?" but, "What unique perspective was I meant to bring into the world?" Because the people who quietly change lives are often the ones who once believed they didn't belong anywhere. As Carl Jung once wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Perhaps that journey doesn't begin when you finally fit in. Perhaps it begins the moment you stop believing that fitting in was the goal. If this video helped you see yourself in a new way, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. If you enjoyed this deep dive into human psychology, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who has always felt different but never understood why. Thank you for watching until the end. This is MentaraX, keep exploring the hidden psychology of the human mind. I'll see you in the next video.